Hey all, it's Nim or Nimicree if you're feeling professional, and welcome to the YouTube video. Now today, we're going to engage in some wild speculation. I actually received a video request from a friend of mine by the name of Pluto. As you can see over there on the screen, you should do a vid on your speculations for the hero specs. Some guy on Reddit did a mock-up of their thoughts, and it seems a lot of people agree with this web. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to engage in wild and reckless acts of fandom and speculation. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, you may ask, Nim, it seems like you're blocking something. Don't worry, I will move myself when it comes to that part. Ironically, covering up a priest, which is how I know Pluto from Pluto being a priest. So let's start off with my good friend Stricken's raid leader Stricken as a blood DK. So we know the blood DK, right? We're familiar with blood DK. It's great. They get stabbed, then they heal themselves, and then they get stabbed, and then they heal themselves, and, you know, that's, or they get burned, or they get smashed, or they get cracked. Blood. So then we have, between Blood and Holy, we have Sand Lane. Now, the Sand Lane are like the vampires of the World of Warcraft universe. I really like them. I think it's cool. So Blood and Unholy, you could have some type of, like, the same type of ability, let's say, that you would have in Temple of Aldazar, right, where you have that corrupted blood, and if you don't interrupt it, if you don't stand in it, and she pulls your actual good blood, then she heals herself. That would be really cool. And again, blood magic. Then of course we have Blood Frost, which is Deathbringer. You know, for me, honestly, that seems like, you know, you're going to get hit hard, you're gonna get slowed, you're gonna get maimed. That to me seems a very maimey, slow death thing, almost like if Unholy was more dot based. And I know that they explode and do wounds, but it seems more even more like the slow creeping chill of death, like how Arthas would come through in the halls of reflection, and you just be a just unstoppable killing machine. I'm not moving fast, but I will get you. And of course we have Unholy and Frost, Rider of the Apocalypse. Honestly, I hope they lean super heavy into the Four Horsemen for that particular hero spec, right? Because having like a random chance to summon one, or maybe as a capstone talent, 2 to 3 of the other Four Horsemen, you know, it's I think that's important. I think that would be really cool, because then you can have all these extra buffs, or this, you know, various debuffs going out, or just, it doesn't even have to be complicated, just a lot of damage, or it gives everybody wounds and slows them. That would be really cool. Moving across, we have Demon Hunter. So we have Vengeance and Havoc are the only two specs. So Vengeance looks like we have the Alderachi Reaver, right? So if that's just Vengeance, you know, being a Reaver, you know, that's like the Grim Reaper, essentially, to me. You know, or if Reaver Vikings would do reaving, they would go and pillage from town to town along the coast. I honestly think that's more Havoc than Vengeance at this point. But honestly, if it inspires panic, if it generates fury, if it allows you to not only control demons, but summon and do extra damage against demons and the undead, I think the Alderachi Reaver would be excellent. In fact, I think that it would be cool if, since reaving in that sense is based on a surprise attack of killing and attacking very fast and without mercy, I think there should be some type of, at the beginning of a fight, you know, one at your first attack, or your first like 4 attacks, do like 25% more damage or something. That would be really cool, because that is in theme with, hey, I'm here, and, you know, like a glass cannon, boom, we're hitting it. And then of course we now have Fellscarred. You know, you as a Havoc demon, or sorry, as a Vengeance demon hunter, you know, you are just more tanky. Your skin is thicker, your spikes are harder. You know, what have you given up? Even more everything, right? Like, Fellscarred seems great, and I would like to see the fact that you could potentially graft demons onto yourself, in a sense. So like, the demon hunters already take some of that stuff, some of the essence into them from the Twisting Nether, but it would be cool to actually be able to, whether through a buff or something, or just damage, or thematically, to just actually take the demons themselves and take, I don't know, a Pit Lord's spear randomly appears, or, you know, a Marilith's, I don't know what they're called, the 6-armed people. I know in D&D the 6-armed people are Mariliths, but you take some of their swords, or you summon them for attacking real quick, and that would be really cool. Now, again, I'm not a super big fan of Demon Hunter generally, but I like that. Or if maybe if there was like a bargain, you could double up on the bargain basically, because again, the demon hunters they consume part of the demon essence, and what if it was more willing? And so they lean deeper into the corruption, and that's why they're fell scarred. That would be really cool. Moving across, we have Guardian. Okay, so we already saw Elun's Chosen and Keeper of the Grove. So we already saw that in the deep dive. If you haven't seen the deep dive, it will be up. It's up by the time you see this, I promise you. But let's talk about Druid of the Claw. Druid of the Claw, again, I think is going to be just feral druid supercharged. I think that you might have some special abilities that might be inspired by, like, for example, Thistly Crow, even though she's Druid of the Talon. But I mean, what's the difference between a Talon and a Claw, right? Realistically, there's not much. I think they're going to supercharge feral, and I really hope they lean into the predator aspect. So combat stealth, or pop combat in and out of stealth. You pop out and you do, I don't know, 500% bleed damage, or your bleeds tick faster, or they do maybe like a touch of death thing, which would be cool. Is that if you have all your bleeds on the target and you pop an ability, and the enemy's health is lower than yours, then boom, dead. Like a monk touch of death. I think that would be really cool because, again, it represents this stacking bleeding wounds. There's not enough life force in you to sustain yourself, because as a human, elf, whatever, orc, you need enough blood to survive. And some people are hardier than others, sure, but there is a minimum amount of blood. And since Feral's all about ripping and bleeding and essentially making the Doomslayer very happy, that would be cool to have kind of a touch of death thing. And it add, especially, or better yet, as a capstone talent, an AoE touch of death, because the bleeds can be put on multiple targets. So you multi-dot, throw it out there, and it's like all of a sudden, boom, you call in the other Druid of the Claws or something, like the other cats, and then everyone who's underneath a percentage underneath your health dies. That would be really cool. Wildstalker is feral and restoration. Honestly, that to me strikes as a support spec. That strikes as a support talent. Extra crit, extra, like, perhaps even a cloak, like the rogues would have. That would be really cool if the rogues had that. But Wildstalker there, and then possibly like ranged utility and interrupt, or interrupt utility. I think that would be really cool. Now, that being said, is it going to be a support class? Probably not. I'm not much. Druids are fun. I'm not very good with them, but I like that. The other thing with Wildstalker that I'm thinking is perhaps almost like elementals. I know I get a little bit of elemental from that, just where you summon spirit or spirits of the land, like I kind of almost half shaman, half druid. But again, we've already seen Elun's Chosen and Keeper of the Grove. Elun's Chosen powers up moon abilities. In fact, as a Guardian Druid, if I remember correctly, the initial build that they showed off gave you 10% leech in an AoE attack, and the capstone talent increased the duration by 3 seconds, and the cooldown decreased the cooldown by 12 seconds, which is a pretty big deal, again, for Guardian Druid. And Keeper of the Grove came around with all treants, so that was really cool. Now we move on to Evoker. So we have Devastation and Preservation, which is the Ruby Adept. Like, when I think of Ruby Adept, I think of, okay, you are the Evoker's Evoker, right? Your job at this point is to, you double down into damage. That's what I see. Or you, in cases, this is that it's not only do you double down on damage, but it doesn't take you anything to throw an off heal. Like, I see that. I would see Ruby Adept having all of their abilities do two things, essentially. Where, if it's targeting an enemy, congratulations, it does this. If it's targeting a friend, it does this. And most importantly, when you take the charge, when you charge it up, or when you throw it out there, it's smart. So it's smart healing. Smart damage. So if my tank is in a big pool of enemies, and I would do like a deep breath or a special ruby breath or something like that, Life's Flame, maybe we can call it, I don't know. Like I said, it's thing or flame of the living or flame of creation. Something really, really blank of blank because I think it really makes it have an epic feel, and especially since it's a new class, I think it should probably look a little better. Um, it's smart enough to where it does damage to the enemies and heals your people. I also would like it. I would also think cool if Ruby Adept as a passive, because it's so built on life that you get a faster combat res. Like a cooldown on your combat res or battle res is less. Because if we remember in the story, Alexstrasza tries to burn away. She's the Life Warden, but she also tries to burn away the undead curse in Northrend. Now she fails, and eventually you have to take somebody to a doll, and that I don't believe he actually succeeds either, and the guy dies. But he does get cleansed of corruption. So then we'll move on to Scale Commander, which is devastation and augmentation. I think Scale Commander, honestly, I think tank. I think tank. I think some type of tanking talent, tanking build, some very durable thing, and again, it's very almost like an aura. Since it's augmentation, it's a lot of support, almost like temporary auras. So if you guys remember in the game, unstable elemental conflux, which dropped as an heirloom item from the pre-patch event for Dragonflight, right? So I see Scale Commander as basically all of their talents essentially doing that and just increasing the chances so that you buff everybody by playing and you increase durations, you steal things. It would be really cool if Scale Commander could debuff enemies, not just buff us, but debuff enemies as well, because I think that style of gameplay is a little old, but still also really useful. Because imagine if, okay, well now this thing moves, 25% slower on a kite fight. Okay, great. Well, now I may not necessarily need a rogue to hamstring, but that's something useful. Or what if, as a Scale Commander, I can do like a druid synthesis, where because I'm so in tune with myself as a leader of various Drakthir, I can use those those evoker abilities and give some to my teammate, and they get something of mine, and I get something of theirs. Kind of again how Druid Synthesis, I think it was Synthesis years ago is what it was called. It's a really cool idea. Now Chrono Warden is Preservation Augmentation, Shield Healer, Shield Healer, Shield Healer, Shield Healer. I love the idea of time magic as healing, and I was really hoping that as a mage you would get that spec, because that's you are at this point with Preservation and Augmentation as a Chrono Warden, you are the Bronze Dragonflight. Everything, rewind time, start, stop. I think it would be cool to have like a, okay, sorry about that, to have a Soul Stone type thing. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, imagine if you had a excuse me. Imagine if you could have Soul Stones on a party, or if you could, as cooldowns, do things where it's like, all right, this party took lethal hits. We actually but it happened during a window. We automatically rewind time, and as you get passives built onto that, not only do they, they rewind time. Well, now they're mostly healed or fully healed. Now they get an attack buff. Now they actually come back with Fury of the Aspects that doesn't trigger exhaustion. Like, how cool would that be? Because now you basically have passive wipe. Well, not passive, but you have somewhat passive wipe protection. And it ties into time, because it's like, okay, well, we know the timeline's going this way, and then what happened? Well, and we died. Oh no, we didn't. We know exactly what's happened now, and we're furious. Let's go. So I think that would be a cool little idea. Let's move. Let's shrink me down a little bit, I think, for this next part. Okay, eventually. There we go. We'll just shrink me down for this next part. Okay, here we go. So now that we're here under Beast Mastery, so we've got Beast Mastery Marksmanship is Sentinel. I think of a ranger type character. I mean, I know there's already a dark ranger, so that's kind of weird. But when I think Sentinel, you're standing on the wall, you're guarding things, team tactics. You have you have the ability to be both very skilled with the bow and work with the beasts of the forest and sea and everything else. I really like the idea of like the Dunedain Rangers for that, for the Sentinel. You know, you're skilled with fire, and more importantly, as a Sentinel, you are very knowledgeable of bases. So I see that everything you do, actually, you have a Colossus Smash window. So for those who are unfamiliar with Colossus Smash, or in Legion, the Retribution window for Judgment is now, let's say for Beastmaster March, use your ability. Boom, you fire it off. Okay, now you want to pack as much into that window as possible, and you do the and it does a percentage increased damage, or it and something else. You always build onto that. So while you're in that window, perhaps critical strikes are, instead of increased chance, it's increased severity. I really like the idea of crit hit severity. So normally critical strikes, as you know, are ×2. What if in Sentinel, as a passive, right, or even as a, let's say, you use an active ability in that window, all your critical strikes are ×3 or ×4. Because again, it would make sense that it's not always, because you're defending. As a Sentinel, you're looking out for stuff. But since that's where you specialize, you would be good there. So I think that would be a cool thing. Now let's go on to Pack Leader. So Beastmaster in Survival gives you Pack Leader. Honestly, I think of a wildling in that sense. Literally, like how the Worgen have the talent running wild. I think of the beast, you working in such synchronicity with your beasts in melee that you now start proccing various attacks, or things randomly come for you. So, for example, you might benefit from a random ability for a minute each time, or 30 seconds each time, from the beasts in your stable. So you could potentially have random heroism. You could have random leech. You could have, a random free little soul stone or combat res or something like that. There's something really cool to have, because, and while you're in there, all of your attacks when you're in that bestial thing should change, or have some type of understanding that you're not sentient at this point. You've regressed. You are part of the animal kingdom. You might be called like Will of the Green or something. And the idea I throw out a name there is because if we remember, the Emerald Dream, right, is the closest. The Emerald Dream is what happens in Azeroth if nothing was built. It's all natural world. And so you might, as a pack leader, you might step into the dream just a little bit, to get that primal natural fury. And then, of course, we have the Dark Ranger. Honestly, I think everything there built around execute. I think everything built around execute. Where it's you have a shot, and I honestly would love to see if I don't know, like a kill shot or an execute being able to be used at like 40 or even 50% health. And it have a chance to do bonus damage, or have a chance to proc other abilities. Like, when I think of Dark Ranger, I think of I'm on the offensive. And so you're not messing around. That's what I think. So we're going to move on to Mage next. Make myself just a little bit bigger here. I'm a little bigger. There we go. Okay, a little bigger. So now that we have Frost, so we've got Frost and Fire. Frost, Fire. I think it's pretty simple. You all, in this case, there's an effect where if you chill your hands and you then stick them in hot water, they hurt like they're still cold. You can't really tell the difference because the body's already too at extremes, and it doesn't have the ability to react fast. Honestly, with Frost Fire, I see a play style of, you use Frostfire Bolt or Frostfire Barrage or Frostfire Comet, like you call down a comet. That would be really cool. And the idea is you alternate between, Ice Bolt, Fire Bolt, or, Flurry, Firebolt. The idea is you want to set people up so that they're off balance, so that now you inflict extra damage from the entire party. That would be really cool. And then all the passives basically work on either increasing the damage or decreasing cast time. Then we have Frost and Arcane for Spellslinger. When I think of Spellslinger in that sense, I'm gonna go probably and this is me just wild speculation. If I had any ideas here, I think of almost like magic gadgets, scrolls, throwing things out, trinkets, not just on you, not trinkets in the sense of like the stuff you equip, but just I think of Spellslinger being very much not it's hard to really put into place because I'm not super big on the mage, but I think I something more like an intellect, a cold intellect, and very calculating, because arcane again is very powerful in the lore. It's the most powerful magic, and frost and fire come from that. But in order to get that arcane, you have to, I think almost like a mathematical equations type thing, like an arcanist from Final Fantasy IV. I think would be kind of cool. And then we have Sun Fury, glowing mage, right? A glow mage. That's what I think of. I think you're like the sun, you like the fire. You obviously a little bit of blinding, obviously a little bit of burning, and more importantly, you call their initial attack or their ability, reduced to ash, meaning it's I'm bringing so much fire in such a way that you're gonna be reduced to ash. And then it does, and then everything in its tree either ups its haste or its critical, or does some extra ignite damage. In fact, you could do a variant build maybe because they have those choice talents where it's like, okay, ignite doesn't expire, or ignite builds on its own. There was a trinket long time ago called Empty Drinking Horn, and it was in Hellfire Citadel. And every time you hit while you had Empty Drinking Horn equipped, the enemy gained a stack, and it did damage. You could never refresh the duration. You could only increase the stacks. And let me tell you, you did so much damage with that. Something similar to that, I think, would be very cool with Ignite, where it just stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks. And I don't want it to be capped at 30. I don't want it to be capped at 40. I want smart, fast, talented play to be able to stack all the way to 99. All the way to 99. So next we'll go into the Brewmaster, Master of Harmony, which is Mistweaver and Brewmaster. I think of balance and repositioning. I think of an extra defensive Brewmaster in that particular instance. I think of someone who maybe has talents like that would be for Brewmaster Windwalker. But when I think of Master of Harmony, I think of a lot of Chi-Ji, a lot of Yulon abilities, a lot of and then Zwen, the Black Ox, and everything just having various balances. Where now I am unmovable. Okay, well now you can't be knocked back and you ignore effects. I think with Master of Harmony, I think they should bring back the old example. For example, Fear Ward, right? It prevented a fear from happening. I think they should do that with Master of Harmony, because you are a master of yourself. You're in tune. So maybe having, not only as passives, you have maybe reduced damage, reduced duration of CC, but as an active, I can get rid of something. So or prevent it. So I can be like, okay, well I use Harmonious Soul, let's say. Boom, Harmonious Soul. All right, I'm monkish. I'm monking. And now the next time that I would be horrified, terrified, stunned, feared, CC'd, mind controlled, I shake it off. And as you add passives, you get a chance for that Harmonious Soul to not expire when it's cleansed, or when it's used. So you could have like a 15% chance, let's say, of CC not happening. And then what do? Well, you're a tank, basically. You're tank or healer. So now you can continue to be in your very vital role. Moving down, we see the Shadow Pan, which is the Brewmaster Windwalker. With that, I think lean heavily into the tradition of Shadowhan, the first emperor of Pandaria, the first Pandorian emperor, Shadowhan. His pride, his guilt, his wrath, everything about him, and each one does different attacks. One makes Rising Sun kick, not have a cooldown perhaps. One makes does one buffs, one debuffs. There's so many different things. And then as a capstone, you actually can I think they do what Storm, Fire, and Earth. Now actually just becomes one, and it's Shadow Hand, and he fights with you, but also does a lot of things. Maybe does a lot more damage than say your Storm, Fire, and Earth would be normally. I haven't played a monk in a while, but I remember that. And then of course, Mistweaver is Conduit of the Celestials. So let's speculate that. That right there would be Chi-Ji and Yulon, right? Just between the Red Crane healing, the Yulon healing, and then striking, like for example, you might have an ability called Subtle Strikes, which would allow you, every time you use it, your healing becomes, or like Flowing Strikes, your healing is increased by a percentage of the damage that you do. And that lasts, let's say, a minute. So if you open up with a burst, boom, you open up with a burst, do as much damage as you can, and then for the next minute, during that window, and then for the next minute, a percentage of what it calculates damage, and then will give you a percentage increase on healing for duration. And then how do you refresh that? Well, the refresh, eventually, obviously it'll fall off. So the passives and the talents as you get to the capstone will allow you to have, maybe increased percentage, or perhaps you will have less cooldown. And then at the capstone talent, honestly, if I were to think about the capstone talent, man, I would definitely, we've already had summoning the elementals. I would have something, I think, with lore. I like the lore walkers for that. I think that there could be something cool. Big healing CD, flavor it as you want. But I also want it to do something else. Like I want it to possibly put a shield on in addition to healing. I want it to be like, this is, we've got both Yulon and Chi-Ji doing. I want to do something with that. And perhaps you could have, cranes. You could have like a swarm of cranes, or the Dragon's Dance, where Yulon fires his breath and flies in a circle and spins around, like just really cool animation. And in fact, you could do like the maybe the Squeakers animation, but just have Yulon do it and it heals and does something else. On to my favorite class, the Paladin. Now, I love the Paladin. It's my favorite class ever, right? And again, we're Wildly Speculate. So, Protection and Holy, Lightsmith. Not real big fan of that name, gonna be honest with you. But, Lightsmith. I would say that, perhaps... So, when you pop cooldowns as a prot warrior, Guardian of Ancient Kings, you actually take on a form. I think that form should be permanent and provide bonuses. So now in the passive form, you'll actually you pop your ability, and now you're in Guardian of Ancient Kings, and everything while you're in that form, you do more things, and you build around being in that form. Or you can do other builds where perhaps you're not in that form, and you do extra healing, or you do extra mitigation, or you might even do just extra offense. Again, I know for Holy, you could have we'll go into Holy there. But next down to is Protection and Retribution is the Templar. Honestly, right now, I'm leveling a new Paladin, and at level 2, I got the Shield of the Righteous at level 2. Now, I was a Ret. I don't use a shield, so that's the thing. Also, I think that should be Crusader than Templar, but what are you gonna do, right? What are you gonna do? I think that just make a more durable Ret. And some people might be like, but Nim, Ret's already pretty durable. Okay, now it's really durable. Again, Retribution should not stop. Should never stop. So honestly, while in combat, haste percentage gain, right? As a passive, haste percentage gain every minute or every 30 seconds you're in combat. So the longer that the fight goes on, the faster you hit. Because again, you're building that momentum. You're unceasing. You're unstoppable. You are the Retribution of the Light. And then we move into Holy for Herald of the Sun. With that, honestly, crit hit severity. I think that your heals, your mastery goes back. Your mastery changes from being in melee range to what the Shaman mastery is, which is deep healing. So the more health that they're missing, the bigger you heal. And as the capstone talent, is all of your critical heals are now at a ×3 instead of a ×2, because that way you're incentivized to stack crit and maybe haste to cast faster. But I think that would be really cool, because the sun is nourishing, it's hopeful, it brings and so your presence is the herald of congratulate, like, we're gonna get through this. And maybe you could bring back some type of like Aura of Sacrifice, Beacon of Virtue combo somehow. Do something like that. That would be really cool, because back in Legion, if you were good at it, and I wasn't, but if you were good at it, you could heal. You could fake being a druid. You could heal an entire raid group in like two CDs, or not even two CDs, just like two GCDs. Just everybody's up. So as we continue through, let's put me down here. Oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. So here we have Holy and Shadow is the Oracle. I see that as more of almost a PvP build, where you have you have healing and void, right? And you do the old almost the old chakra system, where I cast I cast a spell, and that puts me in holy state. I cast a different spell, and that puts me in void state. And you have this form, perhaps, as a capstone talent, where it's like it's a void form. It's a form, like it does like the void form damage, but it also provides a healing buff depending on what spells you've cast. And then throughout there, you do utility, essentially, where every spell that you get either puts a dot on an enemy or a hot on an ally. And then Echo of Light, you could have Echo of Light, still you heals for a percentage, but also I think would be nice to provide a shield, perhaps, or at a certain point of overhealing, if Echo of Light starts to overheal, it does damage to the nearest enemy, or if, as a capstone talent, if Echo of Light overheals, it starts to tick into cooldown reduction, because then now you've got a reason to be like, oh, okay, I may myself, but we're about to burn this boss because I just put cooldown reduction on stuff on all these people. So now we're gonna murder these guys. So we move down to Archon, which is Holy and Discipline. For me, that's the healer's healer. That is the absolute healer's healer. I personally think that you should have almost no like not only should you be able to have so you're like Archon's embrace or something, like you ascend and now all of your holy words and so like our Archon's embrace, we'll say that, let's say you put penance on or atonement on everybody, and you automatically fire penance at every target, in addition to having your holy words reset. And then the capstone talent reduces, does a thing where you have the holy word play, the holy word style build of early Dragonflight, where as you use your holy words and abilities, you actually reduce the cooldown. Well, in this case, the capstone talent is as you use your holy words, you reduce the cooldown on Archon's embrace or something like that. I think that would be really cool and allow for the priest to really have some good class fantasy. We move on next to Void Weaver, right? Void Weaver, Shadow, Discipline. Honestly, I'm thinking that's a really hard one, because again, it's when you think about the Void Weaver, I like Madness. Shadow's been leaning into Madness, but but with Discipline Priest, the idea is that you're mentally focused, and so you don't give into the madness. I like the idea of you driving other people mad, and not in a PvP sense, but the damage that's done is you encourage, it's almost like a damage and an increased damage, or like setting up a bomb, right? So as Void Weaver, you throw you'll throw orbs or something, and then at 5 orbs, boom, you can detonate them, and it's really cool. And and then those create waves that spread out. Similar to Fellord Zakuun, right, in Hellfire Citadel, where if you got hit by a wave, it then bounced off and split. I think that would be a really cool idea. Next, we have the Rogue. And I'm going to make myself a little bit bigger now. All right, here we go. So, as for the rogue, we've got Assassination and Subtlety, Deathstalker. Okay. Uh, Deathstalker, I would say, poison. Poison, 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 poison. Poison, 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 poison. In fact, so much poison. Just chances to throw poison everywhere. Just an absolute chance to throw poison everywhere. And more importantly, I want the poison to actually leech stats. So you not only as you kill your enemies, or as the fight goes on, kind of like how the Templar would be, you actually start doing more critical damage because as you've poisoned your enemy, they've not had a chance to recover. So another application is more and more effective, and eventually you get to a point where your mastery over poison damage, you start hitting like a Mack truck. We move into Fatebound. See, that almost reminds me of like a sanctified slayer from like Pathfinder, and the fact that Fatebound is like, you are here to meet your death. I have been tasked by the Shadowland, so I would like to see almost an angelic style rogue with Fatebound, where you get to have like almost like Kyrian themed assassination stuff. I think that would be really cool because we remember the Kyrian, ideally they don't judge people, they just take them where they go. But let's say you're part of a group where sometimes people try to slip away and get away, and like, well, no, your fate, it's sealed. This has already been decided. So you have like surety strike or final strike. Works as an attack, or could work as an execute, and obviously have a couple of different things like if you final strike and it doesn't kill, increase the damage of the next final strike by 25, 30, 40, 50%. If it does kill, remove the cooldown completely, and then you have crit damage multipliers or extra utility stuff, which could be a lot of fun. Now we move into Subtlety and Outlaw, which gives us the Trickster. Jester theme. I want that to be a Jester themed class. So everybody has a little bit of fun. You throw some bombs, you do things, you have skulls, and you're kind of like a macabre jokester. Let's say trickster. That's weird. You're already a trickster. So you're a very macabre class. And so, skull fetishes and bombs and jokes and cruel laughter. And ultimately, your all of your attacks should have a theme in the tooltip of unnerving your opponent, of being something off and wrong. So I like that. And if like you do one, like, let's say, I don't know, as an attack name, Trickster's Guile, perhaps. I don't know if that's an actual rogue name. It sounds like it could be a rogue attack. But you rework it to now, you actually, you shadow step to the enemy and you plant a bomb on them. You reverse pickpocket a bomb on them, and it's a guaranteed crit. And then from there, the support talents boost that damage, and the capstone talent gives you 2 to 3 charges or a chance for cooldown reduction, or turns it into an AoE where you can just go around and just start planting bombs. That would be really cool. Like, you could have fun with that. Moving on to Shaman. So we have Restoration Elemental is the Farseer. Okay, you are the guiding voice of the planet in this sense. All of your abilities should heal, but also provide, I'm going to say, I think either a shield or the next heal is increased. I like the idea of playing with chain heal for Farseer, and it having just a whole bunch of different abilities. Be it cooldown reduction, damage reduction, it having a chance to be instant cast, or it having a chance to be instant cast at no mana, or it having a chance to proc randomly to where it just casts. So, like, let's say you use healing like Riptide. Oh well, you stack up a certain amount of Riptides and casts over the course of a fight, and now you get a free chain heal cast automatically without your input and doesn't trigger a GCD. I think that's the best part of the Shaman, is essentially you turn healing into a healing multi-strike, where you fire off things, or how like Elemental Blast had I think a 75% chance at one point to fire off 2 of them. Well, now it just does that with your chain heal, and it's just free and does it automatically, and I think that would be good. We then move into Restoration and Enhancement, which is Totemic. I want new totems for that. I want 4 new totems for that. That's what, and you can just drop as many as you can reasonably work into a build. I want more totems. I want totems to, do damage in a different way. I want totems to slow in a different way. I want totems that will perhaps poison, corrupt. I want totems that will prevent damage. I want totems that will potentially act as a brazier of revivification, of reviving, or perhaps I want a sacrifice totem where if it's down and during the cooldown, if it's down and somebody dies during the cooldown part of that, then the totem breaks and the person doesn't. That could be kind of like a little voodoo type thing, which would be really cool. And then, of course, Elemental and Enhancement, you have Stormbringer. Now, this one leans into lightning hard. Let's say you have the Wrath of Alakir, right? One of the elemental stormlords. Your chain lightning becomes more intense. Your chain lightning, your lightning hits do something. We'll say put a debuff on called Jolted, where now they take increased damage from lightning. And as your passives and throughout the tree, you can choose Jolted will do different things. But every time you use Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt, you now have a chance. You now have a chance to jolt, and then the capstone talent can be, when you can really boost that or guarantee it, and that way you get these really cool utility abilities, cool damage abilities. So it's possible that now, because you have done this, you can give everybody leech. Everybody who hits an enemy in your party gets leech. I like that. And you may be like, damn, you're structuring this for a lot of group stuff. Well, yeah, ultimately, as you do Mythic Plus dungeons and raids and delves, you're going to be in a group generally. So we'll move on to, of course, our Warlock. So Affliction and Destruction, Soul Harvester. Ooh, that's very, very dark. Very, very dark. The Warlock's probably all going to be about the same there, but with Soul Harvester, I actually want them to carry varying types of souls from what they kill, and then that fuels abilities. So, you kill critters, you get a critter soul. You kill an NPC, you get an NPC soul. You kill, a demon, you get a demon soul. You kill, so on and so forth. And the idea is that each one will do different things. So, for example, the critter soul, because it's scared and it's running away, it's fast, perhaps your haste increases for the next combat encounter, or let's say you killed a human guard or an orc guard or orc or human, and they were fighting with you, and they were bandits or something. Well, okay, they were brave to fight you. You have a bravery soul, so now you have a chance to either put a shield on yourself when you cast your big spell, or you have a chance for it to not trigger a cooldown, something like that. Because ultimately, mechanically, it has to make sense. So we then move into Affliction, which is Diabolist. I think it's Diabolist. Is Affliction, Demonology. There, I actually want you to call on a specific Netherlord, right? A specific demon. You go through. You have you call on a specific demon, the Lord of Hell or something like that. Literally tie it into Diablo. I mean, you guys own the IP. Do it, and everything is demons and fire. Which is weird because Hellcaller is very similar to that. In this case, except that between Affliction and Diabolus, you burn. You use Hellfire, and you burn. You burn. With Hellcaller as being different, this is one where you would actually summon the demons. Like you would summon the demons. And with Affliction, I guess we'll say with Affliction and Diabolus, something like Withering Flames. Because the idea is that you're caught. These are not natural fires, right? This isn't a fire mage's fire. This is evil, fell, even more evil than fell magic. We'll say it's a deeper sort of malice, and I really like that. And then with Hellcaller, again, maybe you don't summon. Your big cooldown is not like a fell stalker. It's a pit lord. You summon a pit lord. And then the support talents to increase your demon damage and all that jazz, and make things fire off automatically. And your capstone talent is, Shade of Gul'dan or something like that. Like, you actually wrench Gul'dan's soul from the Twisting Nether and use him to empower your spells for like 10 to 12 seconds. That would be, because again, Gul'dan, I believe he's still in the Twisting Nether, and the answer is just, yeah, no, we're not dealing with this. Like, you're suffering, Gul'dan. You're suffering. No being may know the name of your home village, but I know where you are, and I need that extra damage. Finally, to the warrior. So we have Protection and Fury, Mountain Thane. I definitely want, with Mountain Thane, I'm very much Odin, God King Skovald, Valajar. I'm with that, kingly strike, regal stance, call to challenge. So the idea, like let's say you do challenge and call, or call to challenge, or whatever. You target an enemy or a group of enemies. It could be made AoE, and now those enemies are interested in attacking you. And because of that, because you taunted them in that way specifically, you take decreased damage, you deal increased damage, and they have a less chance to snap threat for anything there. I think that would be cool. And then there's a capstone. You turn into a Valajar, or you turn, or you have like Odin's Grace, or like Odin's Grace, and Odin lends you Gungnir, the spear, and you throw the spear, like kind of like the Spear Bastion, but a little bit more Valajar themed. You could have that. So now we have Colossus, and Protection and Arms gives us Colossus. Colossus, I actually want something that's I want an ability that something at the beginning where you have it's a strike, with your sword, or like with your body, or with your arm, where it's a tackle, and like you actually just move. You don't just you press it, and then as for the next time that you run into somebody, or for the next 12 seconds as you like run into people, you do damage, and it actually works. Like, so you call it like trample underfoot, Colossus step. The idea is that as you are this force of destruction by just being there. So you running over them, and then as you have talents going around that, you increase damage, reduce cooldown. You could actually potentially make it to where if you want to do like really cool ad control fights, where now you've reduced healing, so you apply like Mortal Strike, the Mortal Strike debuff, while you're in the Colossus form, and it's like Broken Bones or something, because obviously as a Colossus, you're crushing things, and you could actually make your character as an ability, part of the ability, grow, so that now it's like, oh, that's the Colossus. I know that's the Colossus because he was a dwarf, and now he's taller than me. And finally, Slayer, Fury and Arms. Now for Slayer, again, I see, when I see Slayer, I think execution damage, right? I think you replace execute with with the ability, slaying or slay or something like that. And you can keep it execute too. It doesn't really matter. You could do you could have something like Executioner's Grace, or Executioner's Vigor, or Executioner's Intent, or something like that. And the idea is that not when you pop it, you can use execute whenever you want for the 12 seconds. It does increase damage. But here's the thing I want. There was an ability, I think it was called Juggernaut, for warriors, where it could stack, as you did execute, it would stack damage over and over and over. Like, you get a debuff. It would only go up to 20. I want that to go up to 99. Now, and people are like, but Nim, couldn't that throw off balance? Listen, if you can pull off 99 executes, that fight is going on too long. And I want it to stack with damage every time and get faster and faster and faster. Eventually, I want you to almost be stepping on your own GCDs to pull that off. And it makes sense because, again, you're furious, your arms, you're a slayer. That'd be a really cool thing. So, here's the thing, guys. That was all of my wild and rampant speculation. Tell me if there's anything you agree with. Tell me if there are things you disagree with. Obviously, this is just cool ideas and themes that I think fit with everything. As you can see, I have certain classes I really like. I have certain classes I don't really like. But ultimately, they're really cool ideas, and I think I'm not too far off, at least in the intent, if definitely going to be far off in the specifics. But with that, I will see you in the next video, and if you liked what I did here, it would help a lot to subscribe and leave comments and things like that. YouTube tells me you should do that. Thanks to Pluto for making this video and helping me make this video. And may the amount that you're farming drop on the first instance of the content that it drops in. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.